What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Devy YouTube channel. I'm your host, Kevin Coleman. We're back with a different edition here that we're going to do on this channel. We've done this a couple times before, but it's been a while since we've done this. It's called Reading the Room. And what we're going to be looking at is NFL and college football depth charts, right? Going through some of the battles that we're going to see out there. Where's the value at if you play fantasy football? And then, hey, just have some fun and dive into what these offenses will look like, right? Now, we're going to go after the Alabama quarterback room first. So we're going to be taking a look at this quarterback battle. We're also going to be diving into Tommy Rees' new offensive coordinator there, why they have this battle, who is there, what are their strengths, weaknesses, and just look at what this offense is going to look like in 2023. So you know the drill. Hang around during the intro, hit that like and subscribe button, and I will catch you on the other side diving into the Alabama quarterback room. All right, so let's dive into this bad boy. Let's look at what we can expect from this room moving forward and just kind of go over it. Now, we have to go over last year's team. So just to kind of understand their offense, last year's scoring offense was fourth in NCAA, 41.1 points per game. Their total offense was 11th. They had 477 yards per game. Bill O'Brien was there, but I really feel like this team definitely underperformed. When you're looking at, hey, plays per game, they were not at a good percentage. Passing attempts per game, they did not throw the ball very much, even though they threw it way too much compared to their rushing percentage, right? If you look at their rushing percentage, 86 in college football is not good enough, especially when you have Jahmyr Gibbs there and Jace McClellan. You had some established pretty good talent there. And I think that's something that O'Brien kind of went away from last year. And I think that's why their offense struggled. And especially because they had some really bad wide receiver play last year, unproven. It was just not very good. And it really kind of stagnated. And if it wasn't for Bryce Young, Alabama might have lost 5-6 games. Like Bryce Young really elevated that offense. And so moving forward, right? So when we're talking about like, okay, what comes next? What's going to look next in that offense? Because Bill O'Brien's gone now, right? We know that. Now it's Tommy Rees. So let's talk about what that offense looks like. So his new offensive coordinator is going to come in. I think there's three major changes that you're going to see in this offense. First, you're going to see an established run game. So I think with Tommy Rees, we've seen him kind of have that RPO style attack at different parts of the game with kind of this old school offense. There's times where he lines up with two running backs in the backfield, and I think that's something to look at, especially from a pass catching perspective. We might see more passes thrown out of kind of to the running backs, not from the slot, not from kind of getting them out in motion, but just kind of utilizes running backs in that format. And we've seen him to have established runners, in that offense. Kyron Williams, Estime, all these other guys. We've seen the quarterback, which is something to think about. When you're looking at like Ian Book, Jack Cohn, those guys, they did run the ball a little bit with quarterbacks. And if we're talking about the quarterback battle coming up, you have to understand that in Tommy Rees's offense, that plays a role in it, right? So that's one big thing that you're going to see. I think you're going to see a more well-balanced attack. You're going to see this offense definitely play a role. These running backs play a bigger role in this offense. Jace McClellan, especially. Justice Haynes, their true freshman, who's absolute monster. I think those areas are going to be there. He also runs more of a 12 personnel scheme. And I think that's one area that like Alabama fans should be excited. You saw guys like Michael Mayer, these kind of, tight ends in that system be utilized in different ways. And really, Alabama hasn't necessarily had a tight end that had over 400 yards since Irv Smith, right? And he had 710 in 2018, but we haven't seen that utilization of that tight end. Now, whether that's because they just didn't have the guys or the talent, but again, they've gotten 5-star kids, 4-star kids come in and out of there. What is that, right? Why is that? Well, I think, Tommy Rees is going to be able to utilize that a little bit more. And I think that's going to open up the offense a little bit more, maybe for their wide receivers too. And we've seen that. They got CJ Dupree. They've had some kind of, transfers there. And that's something to note. Like Cameron too was good last year, but he's more of a touchdown guy. So you're going to see that 12 personnel, but also that 12 personnel is going to lead to probably a little bit better, short to mid-range passing schemes. I think they're going to have multiple tight end sets. So the offensive game plan from a passing perspective is definitely going to change. And I think the biggest thing about Tommy Rees is like just him being there. Their player development, I think, is going to take that next step. They did not develop wide receivers very well. And I think if one knock you could say for Alabama is, Ohio State's developing wide receivers. These other guys are developing wide receivers, and we've seen them miss on some, right? John Mechie, was good. Jamison Williams came from Ohio State, and he already was that. Right? He came from that system that elevates these guys. Ajayi Hall was not good. Ja'Cory Brooks really took that, down year. Trayshawn Holden, he did not develop any transfers. So I think they're going to get more out of the receivers. This is the best probably receivers Tommy Rees has had. Notre Dame has struggled at that. But even then, I think he's also going to get more out of his offensive line, which helps the quarterback play. I think that offensive line area, I think, is going to be good. But again, when you're looking at kind of like their prospects on that offensive line, the highest offensive lineman right now is Emil Akura. I think I said that, junior. He ranks as the 108th rated overall prospect in terms of CBS Sports right now. So we're not talking about first-round offensive linemen from Alabama anymore. They're going to need Rees's development in that. And I think that goes a long way to that quarterback position, right? So let's dive into what this quarterback position looks like in the depth chart breakdown. So first and foremost, what you need to understand about the quarterbacks, Jalen Milroe is probably listed at quarterback 1A, right? So not 1B, but probably 1A when we look at overall, what is that going to look like? Now, Milroe has some limited success, right? So when we're talking about success as a quarterback, 31 for 53 last year, didn't have a great completion percentage. He kind of stepped in certain games for Bryce Young. He did have those 5 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. He is a threat on the ground, though, right? 31 attempts, 263 yards, and a touchdown. And I think when you're looking at Tommy Rees's system, he does like to run his quarterbacks. I think that gives Milroe a little bit of an edge here because there is some hey, they're going to utilize him in those sets that they like. And you saw him do this with Ian Book and these guys. Milroe's a definitely different athlete, right? Former quarterback 14, as you see there. He's got a good size, good frame. So I do think that in this system, they might utilize him as a runner. Now, I think he's more of a runner than a throwing quarterback, but that is kind of how you have to look at that about Milroe, right? Now, when we're talking about strengths, though, dual threat's the first one. Arm strength's the second one. This kid can sling it. Like when you're thinking of film-based, analysis, looking at it at that area, this kid can throw it, and he can throw it all levels of the field. Now, where it goes to is always the biggest question mark with Milroe, but he's got it. He's got that arm strength. He's going to sling it out there. And I think he does have, he just has physical tools, right? Like when you're watching him play. Now, there was talk about him this last bowl game while Bryce was preparing for it. They moved Milroe to all kinds of different positions. Like they said they use him as a wide receiver. They said they moved him around. I know he wants to play quarterback. Again, we're not talking about just moving a guy, because he can run, but there is this, they don't know what to use him, but that was before Rees got there. So maybe they do know now, right? Now, as far as areas of improvement, I think accuracy is the biggest one. You saw inconsistent mechanics and accuracy play a role in kind of what you saw at the spring game. So you've seen this multiple times. Accuracy issues, inconsistent mechanics, and in decision-making, Saban's not going to start a kid that's going to throw interceptions. And I think we haven't seen that consistent decision-making from him. And I think that's what's going to knock him down in this battle, right? So he has that mobility and he has that dual threat athleticism. But I really feel like if they don't feel like they can trust him just leading this offense, I think that's where you kind of get concerned if you think Milroe's going to win the job. Now, the next kid that he's battling is Ty Simpson. Ty Simpson came in as a 5-star recruit, quarterback 4 of his class. And his tape in high school, when breaking him down and watching him play, it's filled with just a lot of fun kind of, areas of his strengths. He can get the ball to different levels. He's got good arm strength. He was a highly productive player in high school. He didn't look good in the spring game, but it came out later that he had an injury. So he had an elbow arm kind of injury, and that was probably why. He did a lot of dump offs. I thought he played very conservatively. So one of the big notes in my notes was for him on the spring game in our Patreon was played pretty conservative, didn't really go out there and show that he had that arm strength and those things that he could do to really elevate this game. But if he's injured, I think that's something to note, right? So I think this is 1A, 1B in terms of both of these guys when we're looking at it after the spring game. Now, strengths for him, his mechanics are bar none. He out there, he's a prototypical quarterback. You could tell this kid's been going to camps probably since he's in 5th grade. Arm strength for me is a key because I think he can get it all levels of the field, and he can definitely, when you're talking about the receiving core he's going to have, we're going to dive into that in a little bit. But Malik Benson, Burton Brooks, those guys, I think he can elevate them from a quarterback perspective because I think he can get him the ball in different areas. I think he can extend plays too. He's got some functional athleticism. So again, we see Milroe as that athlete. Simpson kind of can fit that Ian Book role, right? Plus with a better arm. So we're thinking of what Tommy Rees has done with a quarterback like that. I think Simpson's one of those guys that you have to hey, maybe this kid can kind of fit that system too. And he's a better passer and he's maybe a better decision maker, right? Now, areas of improvement for him, he hasn't had a lot of reps, right? 5 throws last year, kind of injured, obviously, in the spring system. Didn't necessarily get him in his reps as you'd like to see in the spring game. That's going to be a concern. And Alabama and Saban, they're in win now. They're always in win now, but especially Saban as he get in age, he's not going to put a quarterback out there he doesn't think can win him in a championship, right? And he's always kind of leaned on, veterans. And that's where I get into this thing where, even though Simpson's a second-year guy, Milroe's been there longer. And just the consistent, if you watch Saban and the way he's kind of started his quarterbacks, I think it's one of those things where you're like, hey, who does he trust more, right? And we're not in the room there. I'm not in the room. If anybody tells you that they know that they're in the room, they're crap unless they're actually Alabama coaches. So this is just kind of the best guess scenario, right? When you watch the tape too, processing multiple reads, a lot of his is one read and go. You see that in high school as well. Anticipation kind of goes with that ability to process multiple reads. So those are the things that he's going to have to work on from as a passer. So processing multiple reads, anticipation there. Now, next guy that we have to just talk about is Tyler Buchner, my bad, and from Notre Dame. He transferred there. He has experience in this offense. I don't know what the hell to make of this kid. To be honest with you guys out there, the COVID year, and as Cover 3 Sports, I listen to podcasts they talk about all the time. That COVID year really affected, 247 Sports and some of these guys understanding how talented these guys are. And Tyler didn't really play his senior year. He's out here in California. So obviously COVID knocked sports out for a long time. Didn't get a ton of reps. Then you see his career numbers there at Notre Dame. Not great. And his interceptions were absolutely awful. Like, I have a hard time understanding why he went to Notre Dame, because I don't think he's better than either one of the guys ahead of him. I understand that, Rees probably has that, confidence in him. But when Rees was there, he recruited Sam Hartman to go there over Tyler, right? And so, like, that's the biggest thing. I don't understand this move. Now, I have a hard time thinking that he could be the starter based on his interceptions and based on that, but he does have that athleticism that I'm sure he likes. This is just a weird move for a kid that Rees already tried to replace at Notre Dame before. Now, to kind of wrap it out, Dylan Lonergan, he's going to redshirt, 4-star kid, quarterback 16. I thought he looked okay during the spring game. Eli Holstein, he's kind of the big guy, QB 12, 6'4", 222. Both of those guys are going to redshirt. So moving forward, there's not really a talk about this year, right? Next year we'll get into it, but this year those guys are there. Now, what does their offensive outlook look like for next year? So, 2023. Running back room is loaded. Jace McClellan, absolutely. I think he's a sleeper right now. I think he's a sleeper to get day 2 draft capital. I really like his tape. I went back, watched his all 22. It's something to look at in that running back room. Roydell Williams is there. Jamarian Miller is there. Justice Haynes, Richard Young. They are loaded. They have one of the best running back rooms in the country, and I think that's what fits Tommy Rees's offense. So when we're looking at the quarterback battle, it's going to be who will not hurt us in games, who's not going to lose us games, not necessarily who's going to win us games, but who's not going to lose us games where we can kind of rely on our running backs and just kind of let them go. And that balanced attack, we're going to see that. We saw that last year with Notre Dame. Notre Dame was competitive with very, very bad quarterback play because they leaned on their 3-headed monster attack in that running back room, which I think Rees is going to do here. I think all of these guys are going to get some run. Wide receivers is the big question mark. Ja'Cory Brooks, can he step up? Malik Benson, transfer. He's been getting a lot of buzz right now, but we've seen that in the spring game before. Jermaine Burton really underperformed last year. Kendrick Law, Isaiah Bond. A guy that I really like is Kobe Prentice. I think Kobe Prentice could step up as that playmaker over Burton in this offense. If he can do that kind of in that H role, I'd be really happy for him, but also I think this offense would be elevated, right? There's other guys there that Jalen Hale, Jaron Hamilton, Shaz Preston, Emmanuel Henderson moved to wide receiver. So they have a lot of guys, but who's going to step up? And in the tight end room, CJ Dupree, like I mentioned, Robbie Owens, Danny Lewis, Amari Nipblack. I know that Elijah Brown transferred, the former 5-star kid or 4-star kid, but from Ohio, but he's moving on. But they're very obviously loaded. They're freaking Alabama, right? I'm not telling you anything else, but I think they got to get guys to step up, be more consistent in that offense. Now, as far as who we're predicting here, I'm still predicting Ty. The reason why, when you look at it from just a Saban perspective and everything that's there, I think Ty gives them the chance to not lose games. I think Milroe could make him lose games if they're going to make him just a pure passer. Now, I think a scenario that I see is them using both. I can see them using Milroe as kind of that running quarterback, get him in there in packages, and using Ty in a different way. I've never seen that. Alabama tends not to do that, but I think with Rees and the system that they're in, we could see that. And especially early in the year, I think it's going to be a battle, right? When we're talking about what the schedule looks like. And just to kind of show you what that schedule looks like, Middle Tennessee and then Texas, right? That's the big. I think Middle Tennessee, both of these guys are going to do that. And then that Texas game is going to be huge for this program. And I think Ty might be this guy. So I'm going to lean my hat on Ty here just because of that just because of the experience with Rees and what he wants to do. I think Milroe will be involved in this offense, but I think at the end of the day, they're going to go with a kid that's not going to turn the ball over a ton, that's going to make the right reads, and they can hand the ball off to like every single one of their 4 or 5-star running backs. I think that's really the case you're going to make. And as far as like Devy or C2C or CFF, I'm kind of staying away from all of these guys in this quarterback room, in my opinion, in fantasy. I think Milroe has upside because he has rushing, but until he's going to start right away, I think these guys are all stayaways, and you just kind of go in other rooms. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope this was a little bit different, this quarterback room. Let me know in the comments who you think is going to start for Alabama. Do you like the Tommy Rees thing as an offensive coordinator? Are you guys excited for that? So I appreciate you guys. Please, hit that like and subscribe button. Also, I'd be remiss not to mention we are an Underdog affiliate now. So Underdog, you get up to $100 matched for your first deposit on Underdog using our code Royale, ROYALE. Use that code Royale up to $100. Appreciate it. We'll see you guys next time.